Lee Richards, Owens Corning. With remote operations management, I'd like to focus on the M in that in terms of management. What concerns do you folks in the panel have as far as writing back? From a remote operations monitoring standpoint, I don't see a high level of risk. There's intellectual property risk, but there is no safety or risks associated with not being able to control your equipment. But when you talk management and you talk about writing back and the control aspect, I'd like to get your thoughts on how you manage the management in ROM and what backups you have available in case there's a failure in communicating back. Appreciate it.
John Nazy, why don't you start?
All right, I'll start out. In my experience, when you look at some of the industries that are kind of embracing this wholeheartedly, you've got the oil and gas industry, subsea control systems in particular, and then you've got like mining with autonomous mining vehicles and things like that, where they actually are managing the control systems remotely. So it's not just a monitoring activity; it's active management. And having said that, you could even look inside some plants where we've had cooperative service agreements within plant environments where we've actually been co-managing the running of, for example, a paper mill for over a period of time and actually helping the operators run the plant from a remote location. Now, having said that, there is always a danger of some level of miscommunication or time lag that could occur with that. And so there's typically some element of redundancy built into the system, and everyone's unique. But typically we accomplish that through some form of redundancy level activity, either at the control system layer or the server layer. And in the cloud, it's kind of new ground for us in terms of how real time can that be and what type of response levels do we get. So we haven't done that many of those cloud applications where we could actually guarantee that there's a certain time response. But certainly where there is a concern over the management of the operation itself, there's typically a redundancy element built into the servers.
So to answer your question regarding writing back to a control system, it's a very easy answer from the power generation industry. It's an absolute no. The regulatory implications are too big for us to put an infrastructure where you have to be compliant with critical infrastructure protection rules. So we've always refrained from that. I don't see any possibility. Although technically it is possible that you can do it, but from a regulatory perspective, it is cost prohibitive, and so I don't see anybody doing that function. The only place where you do certain things are from your renewable assets, where you have these minor, small megawatt capacity units, where these regulatory rules don't apply necessarily. So that's the only place where you would do something like that.
I'll just add, there's some of that management that's not that risky, just keeping inventory up at the right levels. I know I heard Matt talk about filters and things like that, so just a lot of those, super low risk type of management, no troubles at all doing that.
Any other questions out here? A couple back there.
Yeah, Paul Ganguly from Schlumberger. My question is to Matt. Two questions. One, are these trucks on lease basis or are they bought by the service companies? Number two, the cloud that we are talking about, is this a public cloud or it's a specifically private cloud for MJ Bryan if it's a lease basis?
On the first question right there is currently we have about 5 service companies that are currently using using the equipment right now. Frac pumpers that they have purchased from us utilizing this. On the basis of but we also have some in our rental fleet too. I have a rental fleet too that we do lease out frac pumpers that does give us remote monitoring to monitor the equipment, what they're doing with it, the utilization of the equipment. On the cloud, I'm going to pass this maybe over to John, or I can bring up Josh, my head of engineering right here, to answer that question. I'm not 100% positive on that.
I'm not sure if you're using public or private cloud. Josh will give us the insight on Matt's
If
application.
it's built on Windows Azure, it'd be a public cloud.
Yeah, it's a public cloud that's leased through Microsoft, through Rockwell Automation Solutions Group, and then to MG Bryan.
Okay, so actually, the main question here is clearly, as you understand, for service companies, their horsepower, availability, utility, these are very protected, competitive information, especially how much is uptime, how much is downtime on their equipment, and so on. And the risk that comes with these information being on the public cloud, how do you mitigate that?
There's security throughout the system from the time that the data is generated at the truck. It's encrypted through the internet to the cloud system. Once it's stored in the cloud, as these trucks are built and sent out into the field, they are assigned to a company, and then through the company we assign people to that company. So when you come online and look at the portal, you use a name and a password that's particular to that person, and that person can only see the trucks that have been assigned to him, and that management is controlled through MG Bryan. So they can't add their own trucks. We can move trucks if they're sold between different divisions of the same company, but all that security is handled up inside the cloud.
So you don't particularly consider it as a threat when there is some kind of a attack of some sort. That's not a concern.
We've discussed the security about this before, and we don't see that there's enough information. You need a lot of other information based on what other assets were at that site to truly gain information about what that truck was doing at site. So there's a lot of other pieces of information that you would need to socially engineer before you could really break down and figure out how that particular well was fracked.
But you have a security problem, whether that data is on premise or in the cloud. I can almost argue it's going to be safer in the cloud, because up there you're going to have professionals, running it like a transaction factory rather than having your local IT that very well might not be as strong as that staff up in the cloud. You still get this, you still have that security issue wherever that data is the biggest point there that you have to deal with.
So those Amazon incidences and such, things are looking a bit different.
Yeah, good point on Amazon.
Oh, it's kind of interesting. I don't know if anybody attended our cybersecurity session on Monday, but I have over 30 years of process control experience and pretty conservative. I always wanted to see that controller over there. Eyeball to see it, and I'm beginning to turn around. The Saudi Aramco was taken down, their whole internal network, 20,000 PCs by an insider. And they ended up communicating, over Gmail, and somehow Gmail worked. This past weekend, we had a huge blizzard in New England, and everything in my house wasn't working, but my phone was still working somehow, right? So I think it does take a little bit of a mindset to rethink some of these, and that's what we talked about earlier, embracing the technology and not right away just saying, well, we're too conservative, we're a conservative industry, and therefore we can't do it. We have to look for ways where it really might try and help us be more competitive. Got a question in the back?
Hello, Wendy Wusso from ILS Technology. I have a follow-up question for Matt. I understand that you put this technology in as a differentiator for competitive advantage. But can you talk a little bit about the business side? Are you charging extra for these services? Because you're kind of going above and beyond when you're providing them recipe information from the last time they drilled there at job 32. Can you talk to that?
Currently, we're not charging for this information. We will be charging moving forward in the future in 2014. We've told our customer base that has embraced this technology that we would give them this technology through 2013, 2012, 2013. They're very excited about it because they're able to just gain so much more information than they've ever been able to gather before.